This year marks 65 years since Singapore's first cabinet was sworn in on June the 5th, 1959 at City Hall. And tonight's ceremony, well, it marks the second time that the handover of the office of the Prime Minister has been held here at the Istana. Mr. Lee Hsien Loong himself was sworn in as Singapore's third Prime Minister right here on the Istana lawn. That was back in 2004 on August the 12th. So Vivian Balakrishnan there arriving, Mr. K. Shanmugam as well, Grace Fu. These are all members of Mr. Lee Hsien Loong's previous cabinet. Many of them have been appointed for tonight's swearing-in ceremony as well. Mr. Masagos Zulkifli there, about to take their seats for what will be a series of formalities to officially swear these individuals into the incoming Prime Minister's office. The Chief Justice and his spouse, they're entering the lawn area now. That's Chief Justice Sundaresh Menon. He, of course, will bear witness during this signing-in ceremony. Once again, nearly 900 guests have gathered here on the lawn at Singapore's iconic Istana grounds to observe this ceremony. Entering now, Mr. Gan Kim Yong there, who is, of course, going to be promoted to Deputy Prime Minister, and just behind him, DPM Heng Swee Keat, as well as Senior Minister Teo Chee Hean. The stage is clearly set for tonight's formalities. I mean, the last swearing-in ceremony of the Prime Minister and ministers, that was held in 2020 following the general elections. Due to safe distancing measures at that time, the ceremony then was a very different affair. It was split across two venues, the Istana State Room as well as Parliament House. The State Room is in that main building right behind, on your screens now. That room behind. Entering the lawn now. Outgoing Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong arriving at the venue. Outgoing Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong there, arriving to a round of applause from the audience. Now, nearly 20 years ago, that was on August the 12th, 2004, Mr. Lee was sworn in as Singapore's third Prime Minister, right there on the Istana lawn. Across 2 decades as Prime Minister, he helped reinvent Singapore and elevate the country's international standing, flying Singapore's flag high wherever he went. He, of course, will be staying on in the cabinet as senior minister. Attendees now at today's event awaiting the arrival of incoming Prime Minister Lawrence Wong. A view there of the group of individuals, most of them there in those suits. They are the appointees, most of them, for this evening's swearing-in ceremony. There has not been a great deal in terms of change of what they will do. The incoming Prime Minister Lawrence Wong has stated previously that he wants continuity for his next government as he takes Singapore forward into a new chapter. Notably in the crowd as well, a group of former members of Parliament who have served in previous Singapore governments. All here in attendance, a palpable air of anticipation as we await the arrival of the incoming Prime Minister, Lawrence Wong. There in the front row, the former President Tony Tan, together with his wife as well. And of course, beside her, we have the former President, Madam Halimah Yacob. A round of applause now as incoming Prime Minister Lawrence Wong arrives on the Istana grounds with his wife. Since entering politics in 2011, he helmed several ministries, including national development and finance, before becoming Deputy Prime Minister. That was in 2022. He was, of course, also the co-chair of the multi-ministry task force that oversaw Singapore's response to COVID-19. Now, that role helped him earn the trust of Singaporeans as well as his colleagues to become the steward of the nation's 4G leadership team.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Jane Itogi Shanmugaratnam.
There's Mrs. Tharman, the wife of the President, about to take her seat. Handshakes there by Mrs. Jane Itogi Shanmugaratnam for the former presidents and their spouses. We're awaiting, of course, the arrival now of the president himself, Mr. Tharman Shanmugaratnam.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President.
The attendees rise as the President arrives at the lawn. This is the first swearing-in ceremony that Mr. Tharman Shanmugaratnam will be presiding over as President. He assumed that role, of course, in September last year. He's flanked by two honorary aide-de-camp, or HADCs. They are there to help coordinate and plan state functions and events that are attended by the President.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President will now deliver his speech.
Tonight we begin a new chapter in Singapore's history as the baton of leadership passes from our third to our fourth Prime Minister. I speak for all Singaporeans in thanking Mr. Lee Hsien Loong for a life dedicated to the service of our country. and his exceptional leadership as Prime Minister over the last 20 years. In 2004, when Mr. Lee was sworn in, he promised to be a Prime Minister for all Singaporeans and to leave no one behind. He delivered on this promise. Today, Singapore has a transformed economy with good jobs in every sector and substantially higher real incomes across the workforce. We have a more inclusive society, from assuring every child a good start in life to affording our seniors greater peace of mind. Income inequality has eased, and community contributions to uplift every group with disadvantage have expanded significantly alongside the governments. Mr. Lee also kept the population's spirits intact through the global financial crisis and the COVID-19 pandemic, the major crises that divided many other societies. And he steered us through contentious issues like the repeal of Section 377A, strengthening understanding and acceptance of each other, and preserving cohesion. Much can be recalled about Mr. Lee's leadership in these areas and in foreign and security policies. But it is above all the norms and standards that Mr. Lee upheld and reinforced, the intangibles of political leadership that define his most important legacy. His selflessness and personal integrity and the expectations of high standards of conduct that he set for those in political office. His making time to listen to people from all walks of life and different points of view in making decisions that are fair and in the best interest of Singaporeans. His resolve in tackling difficult issues early, never leaving them to future leaders to resolve, even if it means paying an immediate political price. Government policies will be reviewed from time to time, improved, and even revised fundamentally as circumstances change. But while governments can reverse policies, there is no reversing when standards slide, as unfortunately illustrated by many other countries. Public distrust grows. Political leaders respond by avoiding essential decisions for their country's future. Those who enter politics lack conviction, and the downward spiral continues. We must never let slide the expectations of integrity, incorruptibility, and conduct that Mr. Lee and his predecessors established. As Prime Minister, leadership succession has been at the top of Mr. Lee's mind. In his own words, his service as Prime Minister is now made complete with the appointment of Mr. Lawrence Wong as his successor. This is once again a smooth and orderly transition in political leadership in Singapore, and only the third in our 6-decade history. No lengthy defense is needed for this because it has worked well for Singapore. It has preserved political stability and allowed government to plan for the long term, while enabling a new team to adjust policies to fit the changing times. Mr. Lawrence Wong takes over as Prime Minister in a period of growing global fractiousness and big power contestation, and a weakening international order. Mr. Wong and his team, comprising both experienced hands and 4G ministers who have had several years of engagement with their international counterparts, are well placed to secure our national interests amid these unpredictable geopolitical currents, and to help advance ASEAN unity. Domestically, Mr. Wong and his 4G team are determined to refresh our social compact. They have laid out their Forward SG roadmap for a more inclusive, resilient, and united Singapore. They will have to find creative ways to deepen our connections as fellow Singaporeans, as our society continues to evolve and people have more diverse views and interests. Those who have worked with Mr. Wong in government and in the community know that he brings his own package of convictions, life experiences, and skills. He is first and foremost someone who listens, as he did in the Forward Singapore exercise. He has played a key role in shaping our economic, fiscal, and social policies. He has worked with the labour movement to advance the interests of workers. As co-chair of the COVID-19 task force, he was calm and decisive under pressure. And on the global stage, he holds its own with international leaders. I have full confidence in Mr. Lawrence Wong's ability to lead Singapore as we venture into uncharted waters internationally and to rally Singaporeans from all walks of life to create the next chapter of the Singapore story together. He will be his own person with his own approach to building consensus and finding the best way forward for the country. And he will no doubt do so to his own rhythm and beat. As President, I'm committed to working with the Prime Minister and his government. Mr. Lee and I embarked on a constructive and harmonious relationship since I took office as President 8 months ago. We met regularly and had candid private discussions on key developments, plans, and the international challenges Singapore faces. We have had a shared understanding of our respective roles and responsibilities in Singapore's system of governance. I look forward to maintaining this close and productive relationship with Mr. Wong. Singaporeans can be assured that our country is in good hands. Mr. Lawrence Wong and his team will build on the strong foundations laid by previous prime ministers and governments and keep our little red dot shining ever more brightly. Our best years are still ahead of us. I now ask Mr. Lawrence Wong to come forward and take his oath of office as Prime Minister, followed by the ministers he has designated as members of his cabinet.
Appointment and swearing in of the Prime Minister.
Incoming Prime Minister Lawrence Wong ascending the stairs and onto the stage where he will be going through the formalities of this evening's ceremonial process.
In accordance with Article 26(1)(a) and 2(b) of the Constitution, I formally receive and accept the resignation of Mr. Lee Hsien Loong and his government and declare the office of Prime Minister vacant. In accordance with Article 25(1) of the Constitution, I hereby appoint Mr. Lawrence Wong as Prime Minister of the Republic of Singapore. I now invite him to take his oath of allegiance and oath for due execution of office.
The Chief Justice will witness the oath of allegiance and for due execution of office.
Sundaresh Menon is the first Singapore-born Chief Justice. He will bear witness tonight to Mr. Lawrence Wong taking the oaths of allegiance and due execution of office.
The oath of allegiance.
I, Lawrence Wong, having been appointed to the office of Prime Minister, do solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Republic of Singapore and that I will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Republic of Singapore. So help me God.
The oath for due execution of office.
I, Lawrence Wong, being chosen and appointed as Prime Minister of Singapore, do solemnly swear that I will at all times faithfully discharge my duties as Prime Minister according to law and to the best of my knowledge and ability, without fear or favor, affection or ill will. So help me God.
Signing of the oaths.
Incoming Prime Minister there, Lawrence Wong, putting his hand to those two important documents, the signing of the oaths.
Presentation of instrument of appointment.
There's a very large agenda with that part. I'm very impressed by the way you started. With 30 members of colleagues and parliamentarians. And you have full support. Thank you very much.
Appointment and swearing in of the ministers.
Mr. President, I advise that the ministers in my government be appointed in accordance with my letter of 13 May 2024.
I so appoint.
Swearing in of the senior ministers and deputy prime ministers.
Tonight, Mr. Gan Kim Yong will step up to take on the mantle of Deputy Prime Minister. He retains his role as Minister for Trade and Industry, but first, getting onto the stage and leading the way there, the outgoing Prime Minister, Mr. Lee Hsien Loong.
The Chief Justice will now administer the affirmation of allegiance and the affirmation for due execution of office. The affirmation of allegiance.
I, please state your name,
I, Lee Hsien Loong,
having been appointed to the office of Minister,
having been appointed to the office of Minister,
do solemnly swear or affirm
solemnly affirm
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Republic of Singapore,
I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Republic of Singapore,
and that I will preserve,
and that I will preserve,
protect, and defend
protect, and defend
the Constitution of the Republic of Singapore.
the Constitution of the Republic of Singapore.
The affirmation for due execution of office.
I, please state your name,
I,
being chosen and appointed as Minister of Singapore,
being chosen and appointed as Minister of Singapore,
do solemnly swear or affirm
solemnly affirm
that I will at all times
that I will at all times
faithfully discharge my duties as Minister according to law
faithfully discharge my duties as Minister according to law,
and to the best of my knowledge and ability,
and to the best of my knowledge and ability,
without fear or favor,
without fear or favor,
affection or ill will.
affection or ill will.
Signing of the affirmations.
The two senior ministers there and the two deputy prime ministers putting their hand now to the important oaths that they've just taken. Solemn promises to do right by the country, to take those oaths of allegiance as well as their execution of duty.
Presentation of instruments of appointment. Mr. Lee Hsien Loong, Senior Minister. Mr. Gan Kim Yong, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Trade and Industry. Mr. Heng Swee Keat, Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Teo Chee Hean, Senior Minister and Coordinating Minister for National Security. Swearing in of the ministers.
Tonight's ceremony will see the swearing in of 14 ministers. There are no major changes to the lineup, with all appointees retaining their current portfolios.
The Chief Justice will now administer the affirmation of allegiance and the affirmation for due execution of office. The affirmation of allegiance.
I, please state your name.
I,
Having been appointed to the office of Minister, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Republic of Singapore, and that I will preserve, protect and defend the Constitution of the Republic of Singapore.
The affirmation for due execution of office.
I, please state your name. Being chosen and appointed as Minister of Singapore, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will at all times faithfully discharge my duties as Minister according to law, and to the best of my knowledge and ability, without fear or favor, affection or ill will.
Signing of the affirmations. Presentation of instruments of appointment. Dr. Ng En Hen, Minister for Defense. Dr. Vivian Balakrishnan, Minister for Foreign Affairs. Mr. K. Shanmugam, Minister for Home Affairs and Minister for Law. Ms. Grace Fu Haiyin, Minister for Sustainability and the Environment. Mr. Chan Chun Sing, Minister for Education. Mr. Masago Zulkifli, Minister for Social and Family Development and Second Minister for Health. Mr. Ong Yi Kang, Minister for Health. Mrs. Josephine Teo, Minister for Communication and Information and Second Minister for Home Affairs. Mr. Desmond Lee, Minister for National Development. Ms. Indrani Raja, Minister, Prime Minister's Office, Second Minister for Finance and Second Minister for National Development. Dr. Muhammad Maliki bin Osman, Minister, Prime Minister's Office, Second Minister for Education and Second Minister for Foreign Affairs. Mr. Edwin Tong, Minister for Culture, Community and Youth and Second Minister for Law. Dr. Tan Si Leng, Minister for Manpower and Second Minister for Trade and Industry. Mr. Chee Hong Tat, Minister for Transport and Second Minister for Finance.
The appointees there receiving their instruments from the President. This group of people, of course, now form the new cabinet for the incoming Prime Minister Lawrence Wong. In making his outline for the people that he would choose, he had said just days ago that he intended for the purpose of that to be continuity and for renewal as well. Other appointments, of course, have been made by the incoming Prime Minister, and they include
swearing in of the Ministers of State.
And there they are, rising from the second and third rows there of the front block. Tonight, 9 senior Ministers of State and 5 Ministers of State will be sworn in, and they include Ms. Lo Yenling and Mr. Desmond Tan, who've just been promoted to senior Ministers of State.
The Chief Justice will now administer the affirmation of allegiance and the affirmation for due execution of office. The affirmation of allegiance.
I, please state your name. Having been appointed to the office of Minister, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Republic of Singapore, and that I will preserve, protect and defend the Constitution of the Republic of Singapore.
The affirmation for due execution of office.
I, please state your name. Being chosen and appointed as Minister of Singapore. Do solemnly swear or affirm. That I will at all times. Faithfully discharge my duties as Minister according to law. And to the best of my knowledge and ability. Without fear or favor. Affection or ill will.
Signing of the affirmations. Presentation of instruments of appointment. Mr. Heng Chi Hao, Senior Minister of State, Ministry of Defense. Dr. Amy Koh Lian Swan, Senior Minister of State, Ministry of Sustainability and the Environment and Ministry of Transport. Ms. Sim N, Senior Minister of State, Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Ministry of National Development. Dr. Janil Puducherry, Senior Minister of State, Ministry of Communications and Information and Ministry of Health. Dr. Koh Po Kun, Senior Minister of State, Ministry of Manpower and Ministry of Sustainability and the Environment. Mr. Zaki Muhammad, Senior Minister of State, Ministry of Defense and Ministry of Manpower. Mr. Tan Kit Hao, Senior Minister of State, Ministry of Communications and Information and Ministry of National Development. Ms. Lo Yen Ling, Senior Minister of State, Ministry of Culture, Community and Youth and Ministry of Trade and Industry. Mr. Desmond Tan, Senior Minister of State, Prime Minister's Office. Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Faisal bin Ibrahim, Minister of State, Ministry of Home Affairs and Ministry of National Development. Ms. Sun Xueling, Minister of State, Ministry of Home Affairs and Ministry of Social and Family Development. Ms. Gan Xiaohuang, Minister of State, Ministry of Education and Ministry of Manpower. Mr. Elvin Tan, Minister of State, Ministry of Culture, Community and Youth and Ministry of Trade and Industry. Ms. Rahayu Mazam, Minister of State, Ministry of Communications and Information and Ministry of Health.
You've just seen there the 9 senior ministers of state and 5 ministers of state signing their affirmations.
Mr. President,
as well as receiving
ladies and gentlemen,
their
the Prime Minister
of office.
Mr. President, colleagues, and friends, my fellow Singaporeans. I am deeply honored to be sworn in as the Prime Minister of Singapore. Tonight, we are joined by Singaporeans from all walks of life. You embody the rich fabric of our nation. Students and teachers, unionists and business leaders, athletes and artists, community volunteers and frontliners. Whether you are here physically at the Istana or watching from home, your presence is felt and deeply appreciated. I seek your support and your trust. My team and I will do our utmost to serve you and our country. Let me say a few words in Malay and Mandarin before I continue in English. Saudara-saudari sekalian, malam ini saya mengambil alih sebagai Perdana Menteri daripada Encik Lee. Saya berasa rendah diri dan berbesar hati kerana diamanahkan dengan tanggungjawab ini. Saya berikrar untuk berkhidmat sebaik mungkin bagi semua rakyat Singapura. Kita hidup dalam dunia yang sering bergelora dan tidak menentu. Walaupun masa hadapan semakin mencabar, terdapat juga banyak peluang baharu. Sebagai rakyat yang bersatu padu, saya yakin kita boleh merebut peluang-peluang tersebut demi membina Singapura yang lebih baik. Sebagai Perdana Menteri, saya akan turun padang, mendekati rakyat dan bekerja keras untuk memperbaik mutu kehidupan anda. Ayo kita berganding bahu dan bersatu hati untuk sama-sama melangkah masa hadapan baharu yang lebih cerah bagi semua. Terima kasih.各位同胞，我很荣幸能接替李显龙先生出任我国总理，以这个新的身份继续为人民服务。在未来的日子里，我将竭尽所能担起这项重任。这些年来，李先生为新加坡鞠躬尽瘁，做出了很多贡献。我从政以后，他就像我的良师，悉心指导我。作为我的内阁同僚，他也不断地支持和鼓励我。我很感激他答应继续留在内阁，他将为我和我的团队提供宝贵的意见和看法。新加坡今天的成就，是历任领导班子及我国人民辛苦耕耘的成果。我和多数第四代领导团队是在国家独立后出生的，我们十分感谢先辈们无私的付出和贡献，而我们会在这个基础上继续全力以赴，再接再厉。我们知道前方的路将出现新的挑战，也会有新的问题需要我们处理。这是因为如今的世界动荡不安，我国的社会需求也正在不断的变化。但是我相信，只要全民团结一致，我们就能灵活的应变，积极的以新的思维和方法来克服挑战，为国人创造更美好的生活。新加坡故事的下一个篇章正等着我们一起去谱写。我和我的团队将和全体国人携手合作，群策群力，让我们大家肩并肩，一起推动新加坡向前迈进，为你我以及我们的子孙后代打造一个更美好的家园，一个更灿烂的未来。谢谢。 Today marks a significant milestone, a passing of the baton not just between leadership teams, but also across generations. I am the first Prime Minister of Singapore to be born after independence. Almost all my colleagues in the 4G team were also born after 1965. My generation's story is the story of independent Singapore. Our lives are testimony to the values that forged our nation. Incorruptibility, meritocracy, multiracialism, justice and equality. These principles are deeply ingrained in all of us. We understand the vital importance of good leadership, political stability, and long-term planning. We ourselves are the beneficiaries of the imaginative policies of our founding fathers, pursued resolutely and patiently over decades. Shaped by these experiences, our leadership style will differ from that of previous generations. We will lead in our own way. We will continue to think boldly and think far. We know that there is still much more to do. For the story of our island nation continues to unfold. There are many more pages to write, and the best chapters of our Singapore story lie ahead. As we write the next chapters, we are not starting from scratch. We stand on the shoulders of giants. Mr. Lee Kuan Yew and his team led us through independence and established the key pillars of governance. Mr. Goh Chok Tong and his team took us through the next lap and nurtured a kinder and gentler society. These are important foundations we will build on. Tonight, I record our nation's gratitude and my own to Mr. Lee Hsien Loong. Over a lifetime of public service, stretching over half a century, he devoted every measure of his being to the service of our country and people. Under his stewardship, Singapore navigated external as well as domestic changes and overcame multiple crises. Mr. Lee spoke often of the need to keep Singapore exceptional. He was exceptional himself in his devotion, his selflessness, and his dedication to serve. We owe him a great debt of gratitude. I am grateful that Mr. Lee and the more experienced ministers will continue to serve in my cabinet. They will provide continuity as I renew and strengthen the team with new members. One of my key priorities is to identify and persuade younger Singaporeans, men and women in their 30s and 40s, to join our team. So I call out tonight to all my fellow citizens, help me to provide Singaporeans with the government they deserve. Let us make a difference and serve our nation together. Singapore's position is strong, but the world around us is in flux. For 30 years since the Cold War ended, we enjoyed unprecedented peace and stability in the Asia-Pacific. Unfortunately, that era is over. It will not return. Now we face the world of conflict and rivalry. The great powers are competing to shape a new, yet undefined global order. This transition will be marked by geopolitical tensions as well as protectionism and rampant nationalism everywhere. It will likely stretch for years, if not decades. As a small country, we cannot escape these powerful cross-currents. As an open economy, our livelihoods will be hit when multilateralism fractures. As a diverse society, we will be vulnerable to external influences that tug us in different directions. We must brace ourselves to these new realities and adapt to a messier, riskier, and more violent world. Fortunately, our international standing is high, and the Singapore brand is admired and trusted worldwide. We seek to be friends with all while upholding our rights and interests. We value the centrality of ASEAN and its efforts to foster regional cooperation and integration. We hope for stable US-China relations and will continue engaging both powers, even as issues inevitably arise between them. We will strengthen our partnerships near and far and advance Singapore's interests so as to better shape outcomes for ourselves as well as the world. This is not the first time that we've had to confront tough external circumstances. We've done so repeatedly over the last 6 decades. Each time, we have weathered the storms and emerged stronger. The key to our success is our high level of trust in each other and our ability to work well together. Singapore has always been a diverse country, many races, many religions, many languages, and more so now than before. Yet we've strengthened our bonds as one people. We've achieved this not by denying our differences, but by embracing them. We have ensured that every community, every religion, and every linguistic group, big or small, feels included, respected, and valued. When issues arise between communities, and from time to time they will, we do not accentuate our differences. Instead, we accept them. We seek pragmatic compromises and find as much common ground as possible. We do so always in an atmosphere of mutual respect and trust. This is the ethos that will guide me and my team. This is how we will continue to evolve and strengthen our Singapore identity. It is never about subtracting, but always about adding. It's never about contracting, but always about expanding. So from our diversity, we forge unity. From many, we become one united people, regardless of race, language, or religion. This collective striving for unity saw us through the COVID pandemic, the crisis of our generation. We responded effectively to the pandemic because we trust one another. The way we dealt with the crisis, together saving lives and livelihoods, deepened our social capital and made us a better and stronger people. COVID was a baptism of fire for me and my team. It reinforced my conviction that our exceptional performance as a nation lies not in any one person or any single institution, but in how well we work together as one team Singapore. As Prime Minister, I will lead and bear responsibility for the decisions I take, but I will also engage and maximize the combined energies, imaginations, and strengths of all Singaporeans. That is how we will take our nation forward in this dangerous and troubled world. Today, Singapore is at a high economic level compared to most other countries. By international standards, we have built excellent systems of education, housing, healthcare, and transport. But our circumstances are changing, technology is advancing, and our population is aging fast. So we cannot afford to cruise along. We must continue to do our best to improve, upgrade, and transform Singapore. I am convinced we can and we must do better. This is why I launched the Forward Singapore exercise. We listened to and spoke with many of you. We distilled your aspirations into a shared vision for our future. Forward Singapore represents the ambitions of our generation. It expresses our resolve to keep our society strong and united, to share the benefits of progress with all, not just some, to uplift all Singaporeans, not just a few. Younger Singaporeans in particular have spoken clearly. They will strive and work hard for their goals, but they do not wish to be trapped in an endless rat race of hyper-competition. They want a refreshed Singapore dream, one that is not defined by material success alone, but also offers meaning and purpose in their careers and their lives. I am determined to help Singaporeans realize your dreams. With our tripartite partners, we will continue to build a vibrant economy and create good jobs for all. We will find new ways to be productive and innovative and achieve a better balance where work is purposeful and life is meaningful. We will foster a fairer, more just, and more equal society. We will look after our seniors, the vulnerable amongst us, and those with special needs. We will support all Singaporeans, regardless of their start points, age, or ability, to uplift themselves and lead fulfilling lives. My team and I will do more in all of these areas. We need your help too, to support our fellow citizens and to renew our commitment to each other. Then we can build a Singapore where everyone succeeds in being the best possible version of themselves. We can be a people who are more inclusive, gracious, and big-hearted. We can be a society where every Singaporean matters and a Singapore that matters to every Singaporean. These are ambitious goals. There are no easy formulas to apply, no available models to follow. We will have to experiment, discover fresh solutions, and blaze new paths. Along the way, there will be voices that doubt our ability to go further. This skepticism has been with us since the beginning. Many have said that Singapore won't make it. Yet, time and again, we have proved the doubters wrong. And we will do so again. As Singaporeans, we all know what it means to exceed expectations, to go beyond what others think we are capable of, or even what we ourselves thought we could do. When the going gets tough, we do not crumble. We press on with faith in our fellow citizens and in Singapore's future. We strive harder, reach further, and prove that with determination and hard work, there is no challenge we cannot overcome. I will bring this same spirit into my new role. This is my promise to all Singaporeans. I will serve you with all my heart. I will never settle for the status quo. I will always seek better ways to make tomorrow better than today. My mission is clear: to continue defying the odds and to sustain this miracle called Singapore, so that we can reach even greater heights, so that we can be a beacon of hope and unity for ourselves and our children. My fellow Singaporeans, I ask you to join me and my team in our journey forward. Everyone will have a stake in our nation's progress. Everyone will play a key role in shaping our future. Let us unite with common purpose and shared resolve. Let us take Singapore forward together. Thank you.
You have just heard Mr. Lawrence Wong deliver his maiden address as Singapore's fourth Prime Minister, calling the event a significant milestone, a generational change for the country. In his speech, he pledged to serve Singapore with all his heart and expressed his determination to help Singaporeans realize their dreams.
原来好的益生菌真的可以帮助入睡。太阳星全效克菲尔益生菌是国家认证 AB 克菲尔益生菌，含7种有身份证的专利活菌，能产生 GABA、色氨酸等助眠因子，难怪吃了更快入睡，也睡得更好。太阳星全效克菲尔益生菌也是台湾市场上唯一添加克菲尔乳杆菌 M1 的产品，这是由台湾知名的大学季转，对季节敏感、调整体质的朋友真的是一大福音。还有这支还添加被称为超级食物的羽衣甘蓝萃取物，不少研究都指出，十字花科蔬菜有助抗炎及防癌。像是羽衣甘蓝含有高量的叶黄素、贝塔胡萝卜素、维生素 K、维生素 C、叶酸等丰富营养素。太阳仙全效克菲尔益生菌专利制成，无塑化剂、无重金属、无人工添加物、无410项农药、无香料调味剂、无防腐剂、无色素，7大保证、7大认证，觉得好安心。每日克菲尔，时刻美好 ，Good feel，feel good，快点给我下单！太阳星全效克菲尔益生菌。